Hello everyone, welcome to part 4 of the NASCAR 99 season. I'm going to do something here before I get started with my qualifying lap. I'm going to mess around with the EQ of the car, if you will. I'm going to see if I can max out the speed of the car and get a solid qualifying lap. Now that is one thing about turning up the difficulty is you can certainly utilize other things to make your car good. It's not cheating, but I do have quite a fast vehicle as I'm cracking 200 miles per hour quite easily. I'd say I've got a pretty good shot at P1. And yeah, this is the California Speedway, also known as Auto Club, also known as not being open since 2022. Or was that 23? Actually, I think it was 23. That might have been last year because Kyle Busch got the last win there at the time of this recording. And yeah, that was good enough for P1. Alright, 12 laps. See what I can do. See what I am capable of doing here. But yeah, I always like this track. It's kind of neat. I started racing here in 97, and I feel like it put on some pretty good races and then some pretty memorable moments in NASCAR. Because, I mean, there was that one year that Harvick and Jimmy Johnson battled it out. I think that was 2011. And then there was the race where Hamlin and Logano crashed each other and Hamlin was out for a few weeks, which I never was a Hamlin fan anyway, but I mean, I don't want to see the guy get hurt, but at the same time, it's kind of like, yeah, he can sit a few weeks out, I don't want to deal with him. I'm not a Denny Hamlin fan by any means. He's my least favorite driver in the Cup Series. It's either him or Joey Logano. Those two drivers, I wish they would stop winning all the time. I wish they would just, like, retire or go away. They're lame. But I don't want to see anybody get hurt. And sometimes in NASCAR, drivers do get hurt. Sometimes they get worse than hurt. It's been a long time since anybody's been worse than hurt. Hopefully that doesn't happen ever again. I mean, at this point in time, Dale was the last NASCAR driver to be yeeted. Which, going back to that collection of tapes my dad gave me, that 2001 500 was one of the ones he taped from the '01 season. That tape's in pretty rough shape, though. I mean, some of those tapes are ancient. I mean, these tapes are almost like 25 years old, so I would think that those would eventually deteriorate. Some do play pretty good. I haven't tested all of them. And there's one race I do wish was among those, and it's the first race that I can remember sentient clearly. It's the 2001 Richmond race. Not the Pontiac Excitement 400, but the Chevy Monte Carlo 400 with the Looney Tunes. I remember that was the first year they did that promotion thing with the Looney Tunes property. They had these really dope paint schemes. Jeff Gordon had this Bugs Bunny car that changed colors, and in that race, though, he crashed out pretty early. I remember that pretty clearly. And weird thing, though, that was the last race before 9/11 happened, so it's kind of weird that I can remember a couple of things pretty closely together like that, because I remember when that happened. Barely, but you gotta think, folks, I was like 4 at the time, so pretty early into my sentience. But yeah, the earliest race I can remember watching start to finish was that '01 Richmond race. There may be some other NASCAR stuff I remember pretty clearly before that. Like, most of my NASCAR memories, though, other than that, before that, can mostly be traced back to NASCAR 99 and NASCAR 2000. So my parents rented NASCAR 2000 when it came out, but they mostly just stuck with 99. And I just remember a lot of stuff pretty well from around that stretch. And I think this will be a good time to pit. Yeah, since first place is coming in, I'm going to follow the leader. I'm going to go ahead and repair that damage. Now, I'm kind of surprised I haven't bustled out to a lead, considering I cranked up the max speed on the car. But that's okay. I feel like I was holding pretty tough there in second, battling for the lead a little bit. Looks like I'm going to shake out of this in a not too good spot. Also, it looks like somebody's out of the race. Looks like there might have been a big old shuffle up there, because it looks like somebody just kind of popped into pit road, and that's just the way it goes. Ha! But alright, let me see what I can do here. I still got about 4 laps here to make something happen. I would think having a really fast Pontiac Grand Prix would make for something. Man, it's a shame Pontiac's not around anymore. They made a good car. I had 2 Pontiacs, and they were both Grand Ams, which NASCAR raced the Grand Prix, but Grand Am was kind of close. Plus, Grand Ams, they have that, they sound nicer. I like the term Grand Am a little bit more than Grand Prix. I don't know. Pontiac do have some pretty nice cars, like the Fiero and the Firebird. I was always a fan of the Firebird from Smokey and the Bandit 3, and more so better known for the Knight Rider, that specific generation. I feel like everything after that was pretty much just a boring Camaro clone. I mean, I'm not knocking it too much, Which the Camaros, they had some really nice cars too at one point. It's just, after a certain point in the early 90s, when everything stopped being square and they started making everything all round, bubbly, and it wasn't boxy and rectangular anymore, like the cars look here. I have always preferred the cars that have more of a squared out body. I don't care about aerodynamics. I feel like a car looks a lot better when it's nice and boxy looking. Which is pretty much anything before 1992, from what I understand. That's about the time that everything started getting all rounded off. And now I hit that 21 a little bit there. I still have a chance to pick up a couple of spots. If I can just get to that pile in front there, I can pick a few of them off in this corner. As long as I don't bonk anything. Now, I bonked the wall there, but that'll give me enough boost here to make a little bit of a draft move. The way I just kind of clipped into that car there. You know what? Let's see here. 13th? That's fine. I'm 10th in the points, so that's not terrible. Charlotte's next. I feel like this will be a good race to end the part on after I get done with it. And considering this is kind of a longer track to deal with, I'm just going to go ahead and skip right to the race. This is a neat track in the sense that it turns from day to night. I like the way they do that in this game. It looks pretty. It slowly shifts into a night race, which is how Charlotte Motor Speedway has always been. They usually start late in the evening and it turns dark. And that's a track I'd like to go to one of these days, Charlotte. I've been to Charlotte, but not for the racetrack. Charlotte's a really big city in North Carolina, and there's plenty to do there, but whenever I went, I just went to see the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and that's a really neat place. I like that place. I'm gonna have to go back one of these days. So they got all kinds of cool stuff to look at there, a bunch of old cars, a bunch of information. It's kind of more like a museum, which is pretty much what it is. It's like a NASCAR museum. And North Carolina being pretty much the heart of NASCAR country, there's just so much to do over there, and it's crazy. I mean, it's like being a kid in a candy store if you're a NASCAR fan. They've got tons of museums, tons of stuff, tons of racetracks, tons of race teams are headquartered in North Carolina. There's just so much to do. It'll make your head spin. And whenever I went to North Carolina, I didn't nearly do everything I would like to have done. There was just so much to do and not enough time to do it all. $4.20. Blaze it. Don't mind if I do. I'm actually making some pretty solid ground for starting dead last. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the first times I've skipped qualifying so far. And considering how these races usually end up where I'm not getting the best results, I might as well take some chances and just see what I can do without starting near the front. And I've made it up to halfway through the field at this point in 5 laps? About 5.5 laps. So I'm making some decent time. I'm making some decent moves. And you can see the sun setting in the background. It is shifting to night time over here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, folks. Just kind of maneuver through these turns. Hopefully I can stop bonking off the wall. And my damage model looks good. I'm only in the yellow. Now you gotta hit the wall pretty hard for it to usually turn it orange or brown, depending on how you look at it. It looks more like a brownish orange, somewhere in there. And just see what I can do. Closing up on that halfway point. I'm in the top 10. Not quite at the halfway yet, though. I'm making up a lot of ground in these corners, and that draft is really helping me too. I just gotta get behind these cars a little better. Stay in their line. There's a best line you can turn on in this game, but I just choose not to. Makes it a little bit too easy. Because you can just get that and just kind of stay in the line the whole time and see what your competition's doing. Which I guess is fine and good. It's just, I don't want to turn all the features on here. As you see, the sky has darkened once again. Nighttime is nearly upon us, folks. I am in 10th. If I can get out of this with the top 10, I mean, I'll be alright with that. That seems pretty reasonable. I just want to put some solid results together here. I might have turned the difficulty up just a little bit too much to make it to where the competition is easily just setting off into the sunset. I would say I will probably want to pit this time by. I would say that everybody else is going to. Yeah, I've seen a lot of cars start to go low. Looks like they're all kind of just going in. So yeah, this is what I will do. I am not going to take time. Actually, I'll take tires. I'm not going to repair the damage, because I think that will add a little bit of extra time. Maybe that's where I'm running into some trouble here. The more boxes you check, the more time you will spend on pit road. Alright, it looks like I will stay on the lead lap at the very least. And it's kind of hard to say yet whether or not that really helped. And if that's the case, I guess it really doesn't matter. Maybe I should skip some tires next time just to see what it does. It seems like the fuel is the one thing that you gotta deal with. Though tires do wear down in this game. Tires eventually get worn. It just doesn't seem like that really helped my case very much. I am having some mediocre pit stops. I've got to narrow that time down a little bit. Or maybe I could try something. Ooh, got a little bit darker out. I could try something a little bit different next time and just see how long I can go on fuel. Might as well do a gamble of a race. I always like that Circuit City car, that number 8 there, the Hut Strickland. Which, Circuit City is long gone. I never got to go to one. I don't even know where any of them were. It's kind of a shame, really. It's kind of like I never got to go to Blockbuster. One thing I remember the most about Circuit City, though, is that they were on Bobby Labonte's car as an associate sponsor, and the commercials always had that Cars song, the Just What I Needed! Which I love the Cars, they're one of my favorite bands. I would put them easily in my top 5 favorite bands. So many classics, so many good songs, some pretty solid songs and albums all together. Even their solo projects are pretty good. Which my favorite was always the Elliot Easton album, Change No Change. There's some really good songs on that. It's probably the least sounding of the Cars kind of solo albums. Because the other guys who put out the other Cars members that put out solo albums, they all kind of had that classic Cars sound, maybe slightly altered. But Elliot Easton's only solo album, it rocks and it sounds pretty unlike anything that the Cars would have done. Which it's kind of a shame he never took any lead vocals on any Cars songs. There are live performances where he did early in the band's history, but he didn't sing on any Cars tracks, which it's too bad. I feel like he should have been owed at least one. Oh man, with only 4 laps to go, it looks like I'm gonna get a pretty mid-finish out of this. I thought for sure I would have come out of this with a better result. It looks like I'm gonna get a top 15, which, I mean, is fine, but 24th is as low as you can finish, and out of a field of 24 cars, 15th isn't really too great. I kind of wonder if the early games only had that limit because it was too much to load too many cars onto the track at once. Which I always found it kind of ridiculous how NASCAR 2000 started that trend on the PS1 games where they were lowering the car count. As that one only had like 16 cars on track, and it just seemed kind of lame because it seemed like it played and looked similar to 99, but they lowered the car count. And then 2001 for the PS1, I want to play that one of these days on the channel. It's the best way to play 2001, but it has low car count too. It's only 18 cars on track, and I feel like it could have been better. And the problem with that one is it sets a trend where 2001, 2, 3, and 4 are all pretty much the same game on the PS1. On the newer hardware, the PS2 and GameCube and all that, Xbox. It was a lot different, but they pretty much just copy-pasted it for the PS1, and I feel like they could put at least a little bit more effort into it. But anyways, I'm going to come out of this with a 15th place finish in the Coca-Cola 600. You can see the cars still zooming across the track there. And I'm still 10th in points. I mean, if I can get a top 10 points, I'll be fine with that. But that's going to do it for this part, folks. I'll save the season once again and pick this up in Pocono. I will see you in the next part.